Thank you very much, Jonathan, and thank you all very much for coming and taking time out of your day to listen to this webinar. And I want to begin by thanking Chuck and Courtney for inviting me to host this. Courtney and her brother and I were all friends in undergrad, so we were all agriculture majors at Tech, and glad that we're able to reconnect in Knoxville through the KBA and through the legal profession. So if you have any other farming questions, you can relay those to not only myself but also Courtney. So she's very well versed in beef cattle operations and everything else related to agriculture. So again, want to thank everyone for tuning in. The title of this discussion is Practicing During a Pandemic: How Small Firms Can Embrace Change, Meet Client Needs, and Grow. So as we take a look at the unique challenges and opportunities for small farms during the COVID-19 crisis, I think that it's important for us to remember that no matter where we are or no matter the size of our firm, that we have something to offer our clients and we have something to offer society at large. And especially for those of us that are engaged in small firm practice, I think that we sometimes have the ability to respond to these great societal changes with more flexibility, and we have more opportunity to be able to still deliver quality services to our clients in a way that's going to take advantage of these new technologies and these new opportunities. So I think that as Americans, one thing that has defined us is that we always see the glass half full, and no matter what the circumstances are, we can always see opportunities to improve ourselves and to improve our businesses. And I hope that we will still have that optimistic attitude with this COVID-19 crisis. What I kind of I thought about using this slide, but I couldn't find one that didn't have a bad word in it. But anyway, there's a cartoon from the very beginning of the COVID-19 situation where there's a picture of these dinosaurs, and there's a comet screaming over the head of the dinosaurs, and one of the dinosaurs says to the other one, says, "Oh no, the economy." He says something a little bit different, but it's the idea of, this great meteor is now pummeling towards Earth and is getting ready to cause the extinction of the dinosaurs, and they're worried about the economy. And I think in some ways that was sort of the legal industry, that especially when we take a look at firms that were unprepared to work remotely, that were unprepared to take advantage of new technologies, that they were the ones that suffered the worst, whether they were large firms or small firms. And in the same way, what really caused the extinction of the dinosaurs was, but from what scientists believe, was that when the meteor hit the Earth, it basically sent the Earth into an ice age, and the dinosaurs couldn't adapt and couldn't overcome to this change in temperature. So they were very well positioned. They were the kings of the Earth during, prior to the meteor hitting. But then once that climactic event happened, they all went extinct, and everything changed. Well, the same is true in today during our current economic crisis. So COVID-19 has happened, and it's continuing to happen, even with the economy beginning to open back up again. So those of us that have small firms, we need to position ourselves to take advantage of that, monumental change. And I think that what we need to do is we don't need to run away from the newness of this situation, that we need to be able to confront the reality and be able to use our small size and scalability and flexibility to our advantage. So I have 3 news that I'm going to talk about with that. So we're going to talk about new technologies, we're going to talk about new rules, and we're going to talk about new clients. So the first new that we're going to discuss with our new situation with COVID-19 is this idea of new technology. And we're really going to embrace new ideas and new operating procedures, not only for our firm during the COVID-19 crisis, but I think that this is an opportunity for us to really evaluate where are we going in the right direction, how are we efficient, and what can we do differently moving forward. So the new technologies, the first one that we can think about is, you're utilizing it right now. So this Zoom call, whether we are meeting with clients via Zoom or WebEx or some other meeting platform, whether we are having Zoom court hearings, or whether we're utilizing more conference calls, when we embrace this new way of doing business, it allows us to expand the reach of our firm, so that what before it might have caused us to sacrifice 2 or 3 hours of travel time to meet with a client individually, or to be able to travel to court to have a hearing. Now through Zoom and other similar programs, now we can cut down on that travel time. We can still have that face-to-face interaction, and we will be able to be more productive and more efficient. And the same is true for CLE. So whenever, instead of having to go to an all-day seminar or go out of the office, we can still utilize these web services so that it can make more efficient use of our time. Of course, as attorneys, that's what we sell. We sell our time. So anything that's going to maximize our opportunities is to make sure that we are making the best use of that time is something that we should really take advantage of. So I think that we need to certainly jump on the Zoom bandwagon, and hopefully that will be something that we will continue to utilize in the months and years ahead, even after hopefully the COVID-19 crisis has receded. But I think that this can create us an opportunity for us to continue to utilize these things that we have learned and adapted during this time. The second new technology that we need to really think about as attorneys and have conversations with our elected officials and with our judicial officers is the idea of online notary services. Now, Governor Bill Lee passed an executive order in early April. It was Executive Order 26 regarding online notaries. So we have the Online Notary Act in the state of Tennessee, which basically allows individuals to notarize a document without having to physically be present for its signing. And you go through the Tennessee Secretary of State's website to get credentialed to do that. You still have to be a notary. You still have to be a standard notary that you would typically go to with the stamp and everything else. But you can use one of the Tennessee Secretary of State's approved providers that will allow them to be your go-through. They'll set you up with an account whereby you can basically, through a Zoom platform or a Skype type platform, you can witness the signature of the individual that they'll provide their information, their credentials, and you can then be able to notarize that document in that manner. And once you have done that, then that document will have been notarized in the same way as if you had visually had seen them in person do it. So there are some requirements with that, and you have to follow their steps, and you also have to utilize one of the approved vendors from the state. But that changes a lot when it comes to how we currently notarize documents, especially from an estate planning standpoint. And Governor Bill Lee's executive order even went further than the Online Notary Act by saying that you don't even have to go through that process, but you can just utilize FaceTime or Skype or Zoom, and you can just do it that way. And then you will have effectively notarized the document. Now, and then you can, once you've witnessed it through this Zoom platform, for example, I could watch you notarize, sign a affidavit, or if you were witnessing a will, you would be able to suffice the requirements for notarizing that affidavit of subscribing witness for a will signing just through a FaceTime or Zoom platform. Now that executive order was just for this crisis, and I believe it expired on May 18th, I believe. But my question is, if that was a sufficient use of our notary system currently, why can't we continue on that? So I think that's an opportunity for us to really encourage and push our colleagues in the bar towards adapting new technologies in a way that's going to be more conducive to helping people achieve their legal goals, and it helps the bar decrease unnecessary travel time and be more efficient with what we're doing. Unfortunately, the legal profession is one that sometimes does not readily jump on new technological opportunities. But what has happened during this COVID-19 situation, with the stay-at-home orders, with the closure of the court systems, even those individuals that are technologically resistant, they have been forced into making changes to their practice. And I think that when we have seen people working from home, working remotely, and having some success there, I think that that will raise everyone's comfort level with some of these changes and with some of these new ideas. And that's kind of caps off the final idea when it comes to new technologies, is the idea of, do we have to be beholden to a brick and mortar office space? Why not utilize more work from home options, remote working ventures? That as small firms, one of the things that we all are concerned with is cash flow and capital investment. And real estate, whether it be you've purchased a building or whether you're leasing or renting a building, that is one of the largest capital outlays for us as small business owners. With these new technologies, with society's greater acceptance of these new technologies, especially in light of the COVID-19 crisis, this gives us a unique opportunity as smaller firms to maybe shed some unnecessary expenditures that our colleagues in larger firms aren't in a position to shed. If you're in a larger firm, typically you're going to be more wedded to that floor that you rent at the First Horizon building, or to your office space if you went and invested in that. While I think that there will always be a need for brick and mortar places, and that a lot of clients, especially higher net worth clients, will want to meet with you, want you to have some kind of office building, I think the reality is that most of the work that we do can be done remotely, utilizing these new technologies and these new opportunities that we've discussed, and many more that are continuing to be developed. These new platforms, whether they be for virtual networking or whether they be for meeting with clients or having hearings with courts, have revolutionized the legal process. And I think that hopefully, while this COVID-19 situation will not remain, those changes and that comfort level and a desire to make things more efficient, I think that will remain with us in the years to come. So that is the first new that we have, as we think about our new normal in a post-COVID-19 world, as we're still dealing with the crisis. And I think that's the first thing that we need to really take a hard look at as small firms, and be willing to adopt those new technologies and those new opportunities. And that's, again, just to recap, that's everything from being able to do virtual networking over a Zoom or a Skype or WebEx platform, having virtual meetings, virtual networking opportunities, which there have been a lot, and KBA has done a great job of hosting those, in addition to taking advantage of those platforms so that we can work more from home, work more remotely. And I think that when we do those things, it will allow us to be more efficient with our time and allow us to be more profitable as well. So the second new that I touched on a little bit earlier with the new technology is when it comes to new rules. So during COVID-19, we saw a slew of executive orders come to us from Governor Bill Lee, as well as the state Supreme Court changing the rules for those of us that are practicing attorneys, whenever it comes to whether it's in-court hearings or exactly how we're to interact with our clients. I have a fair amount of landlord clients, and the bar on evictions has really caused a lot of consternation amongst those landlords that I represent. And with this changing landscape, with these new rules and regulations, whether they be from the governor or from local county governments or from city governments or from our own state Supreme Court or from our local judicial officers, that people are looking for answers, and they're looking for individuals to help walk them through those circumstances. So as a small firm, we have an opportunity to have that one-on-one interaction with our clients. A lot of our clients probably have our cell phone numbers, and they have a connection with us that is different with larger firms. So we are their guy, that they understand us to be, their lawyer, and they bring these questions to us. They are also small business owners, a number of them, and they're trying to operate in these shifting sands of this COVID-19 regulation. So they're coming to us with questions, and it behooves us, and it creates opportunities for us as attorneys to have an understanding of the law, have an understanding of what does this executive order say, what does this new regulation from the state Supreme Court say? What are the new rules for this local city or this local county? Jerry Seinfeld has a bit where he talks about lawyers are basically the guys, if you're playing a game of Monopoly, they're the ones who read the rules. They're the ones that understand how the game is supposed to be played. And there's value there. So if you're the guy that knows how the game is supposed to be played, you're more likely to win. And he goes on and talks about that. Well, that's what our clients are looking to us for. We're the ones that are supposed to know how this game is supposed to be played, what the rules that we're all supposed to be playing by. That's difficult when it seems like the rules are changing every day. But we have to meet that need, and we have to be willing to rise to that challenge. So that means that when it comes to these new rules, that's an opportunity for us to become well-versed in what's going on, to research that so that we can be able to advise our clients and be able to make sure that their small business is going to be able to survive this COVID-19 crisis. And when we do that, that creates value for our client, and that makes them more likely to call on us and to utilize us when it comes to further legal needs, and that builds that connection, it builds that bond between the two of us. So this changing regulatory landscape and the future changing regulatory landscape creates opportunities for those of us engaged in a small firm practice to make sure that we're creating value for our clients and to make sure that we ourselves are well versed in what's going on. Other firms might not have that same opportunity. Maybe they're engaged in one area of the law and they're just focused just on that. So now when this happens, that flexibility that small firms have can come into play, and it gives us this chance to be able to provide value for our clients. So we've talked about new technologies and how we can adopt those to better able to serve not only our own interest in preserving our time and being more profitable, but also being able to connect with our clients. We've talked about new rules, how the COVID-19 situation has changed not only our legal system and what we as attorneys do day in and day out, but also it has affected the regulatory scheme both at the city, county, and state level and federal level as well with the passage of the CARES Act. And we've discussed that changing reality. So taking into account our new technology, these new regulations, that this now presents an opportunity for us to have new clients and to grow our practice, even in the midst of serious economic challenges. And in addition to the health situation that COVID-19 presents, and we certainly, our thoughts and prayers are with those who are affected by COVID-19 in a physical sense, but this also has presented a real economic challenge to our fellow Americans. That our unemployment rate is the highest that it's been in a generation. You have, almost 30 million Americans seeking some sort of assistance from the government, unemployment assistance in some form, and we hope that those people will be able to go back to work. So these are struggling individuals. These are trying times. So you ask yourself, how can we grow our business? How can we stay in business in light of these severe economic hardships? And this is where it's important for us to take a step back and to see the opportunities and to meet a need for our clients. Because the truth is, what you and I do is so critically important, not only for our small business clients, not only for our estate planning clients and their own individual lives, but also for the fabric of society, that we provide a way for people to settle disputes. We provide for people to transact business, even when it seems like everything else is falling apart. Lawyers are the foot soldiers of our civilization that we represent. We are officers of the court. We represent the rule of law, and we represent order, even in the midst of chaos. So when you can bring order to chaos for your clients, when you can respond to their needs, when you can answer those questions, then there will be a need for you, whether you're a small firm attorney like myself or you're working for a larger firm. And that's where we can see new client opportunities there. And I'll give you 3 examples of those from my own personal experience. So whenever the COVID-19 situation first arose, and I saw an increase in individuals seeking me out for estate planning services. Obviously, the pandemic, brought with it the fear that this was going to cause widespread, not only illness, but also loss of life throughout the country. And especially those individuals that were engaged in the healthcare industry were especially concerned about that. As a small firm, what we can do is that we can make ourselves more available. And during the executive orders where we could do online will signings via Zoom or via Skype, it makes us more flexible and it gives us more opportunity to provide customer service to those individuals in a time when they really need it. So whether that's meeting somebody at one of our offices so that we can open that up, whereas if you're in a larger office building where there might be some more rules and regulations and a little bit more onus on you, or you can even go to somebody's home if they're open to doing that, making a house call during this time period. If you do that for somebody during this time, you make a client for life, and they really appreciate that. Especially with our senior citizens, making sure that if you do interact with them, that you're wearing a mask, that you take care to be responsive to their concerns, that you make sure that you are providing them the same level of service even in the midst of these difficult situations. That provides you an opportunity to meet that need. Whenever I think that those of you, if you have an interest in estate planning or people who are looking to get involved in it, I think that is an area that is going to see continued growth absent the COVID-19 situation. But as the baby booming generation continues to think about their long-term strategy, that those that can provide quality estate planning services will see a continuation of their business and will be able to grow their business in that way. So I have seen probably a 50% increase in individuals seeking out estate planning services from my firm during the COVID-19 pandemic. And I think that will probably continue. So one area that I would encourage is to be involved in estate planning services and to be able to provide that service to your clients or potential clients. I think that's something that's going to happen. And again, a demographic to target and to think about there are nurses and doctors and physicians assistants, those individuals that are engaged in the healthcare industry especially. They see the importance of that and they know the value of that. The second area that I've actually seen an increase in, which is one that you may not necessarily think about, is new businesses. So with the COVID-19 crisis, as I alluded to, as I said earlier, we as Americans, we're a glass half full kind of people, that whenever this happened, I saw a boom in delivery services. So I picked up 2 clients who were starting businesses that tailored towards delivering goods, delivering food, delivering groceries to individuals. And I helped one individual with an independent contractor agreement. He was developing his business and he was going to have his drivers be independent contractors. Also helped up another individual set up his LLC and provided him some guidance as he formed his business. So even though we think that the world is falling apart around us, that entrepreneurial spirit is still strong. And there are still people looking at opening businesses, looking at creating value in this economy. And if you're in a small firm, you can see those opportunities and you can make yourself available to those people during this time period. And I think that's something that is probably an unexpected outgrowth from this situation. And the good thing about entrepreneurs, if you do a good job for them, they're your best salesman. That word of mouth is critical to the continuation of any business, but especially a law practice. So I've been able to see some growth there in my practice that's directly related to COVID-19 and my ability to be responsive to what they're looking for and to be able to position myself to provide answers to their legal questions and to provide value for those business owners. Whenever you're dealing with business owners, they think of attorneys as deal killers and they think of you as another expense. An attorney that's going to get a business owner's business and is someone that's going to be able to provide value for them. So they don't necessarily just see you as another line item on their budget or another invoice coming in, but rather this is someone who is helping me grow my business. This is someone helping me protect my business and continue my business. And when you can have that conversation with them and you can impress upon them that fact, that allows you to be able to develop a relationship with them and for you to develop that client and have them be your best salesman moving forward so that they'll tell their friends and those other individuals that are involved in their similar business to go and see you. So the third and final one that I'm going to talk about today is when it comes to interacting with those governments. So with this COVID-19 situation, we saw different counties and cities take different approaches. And in the same way that this is a very partisan time in our nation's history, and you can go across the country and you see governors reacting in different ways and having various attitudes towards the federal government's response to it. The same is true even in the state of Tennessee. And there have been some counties that have taken fairly extensive measures and some that have not. So being willing to represent clients in discussions with local city and county governments is an area that I have found some success in. Just to give you an example, one client that I had owned a stockyard in West Tennessee. And this is rural West Tennessee, and his local county government sought to shut down his stockyard business because if you have a cattle auction, he's selling 500 cows on a weekly basis. And just to kind of give you an idea of sort of how the food chain works. So the farmer brings his cows to the auction, and order buyers from the larger meat processing companies, they're there along with other farmers who are looking to buy and sell cows. They come to this auction and they buy the cows. They eventually send them to a feedlot, usually located in the western United States. They feed the cows for a few months. Eventually they go to a slaughterhouse where the animals are harvested, and then they cut the meat up, and then they send it to Kroger's and Food City, and you and your family buy it to be able to set your meal with. And his local county was saying, well, we don't want 100 plus people coming together at this cattle sale, so we're going to shut you down. We're going to say that you can't have the cattle auction. And they actually caused him to miss a sale. Told everyone to go home and threatened to have him be prosecuted, to have law enforcement get involved with it. So he contacts me about the situation. Now, the truth is agriculture is an essential service, and that was both from the federal guidelines as well as our own governor recognized that agriculture is an essential service. They were saying, well, you're not really agriculture, you're not producing the cow, but the truth was he was an important part in that food supply chain. If you don't have a market, if you don't have a place to sell the cows, to sell the beef, then they're not going to wind up in Kroger's. So we were able to, he retained my services, and we were able to represent him, and we were able to get him opened back up, which is how this guy makes his living. I mean, this was a farm family business, had been in the family for generations, and they were looking at bankruptcy because his county government decided to shut him down in complete disregard from the guidance from the federal and the state authorities. And that's where we as attorneys come in to fight for people's rights. And that's what we did. And we were able to get him back open, and he's having sales now. Now he also put some measures in place for have some social distancing, to make sure that people were being smart about how they had their sale. But sometimes these county governments have very draconian measures that come into place and have caused some serious issues. So I was glad to be able to be in that opportunity. So if you can provide that service for clients, to market yourself as an individual who's willing to go to bat for them, both at the local level and even at the state level if need be, so that you're familiar with these new rules and regulations, and you're willing to file that injunction, you're willing to write that letter to the county attorney or to the city attorney, and to go and discuss those options with them, you're creating value for them. You're someone that they're going to rely upon. You're someone that they're going to look to during not only this crisis, but for the life of their business. So that kind of gives you a basic overview of what I think the opportunities are for those of us that are engaged in a small firm practice, that this is a new world, that while I don't believe COVID-19, our response to it is going to remain the same, I think that the truth is that for the foreseeable future, COVID-19 is going to be a concern. And I'm no doctor. I went to law school, and I'm certainly not an epidemiologist. But if we look at the fall and we think there's probably going to be a second wave, or at the very least, we know people are going to get the flu and other seasonal ailments, and everybody that gets the flu this year is probably going to think that they have COVID-19. We know that there's probably going to be some more uncertainty, and that there's going to be some more situations that are going to mirror what's happened here in the spring. And if we know that that's probably going to happen, then we can position ourselves to be in a place where we can respond to what we think might be coming. And we can do that by adopting these new technologies, looking at, hey, where are we going to fit into this pie? Where do we need to be a part of this solution for businesses, for individuals, and for what we think is going to come and what could potentially happen again? And understand that regulatory landscape with these new rules and regulations, what we think might be coming down the pike and what's already happened. When we do that, then we've prepared ourselves for success, and we're going to be able to make sure that we help our clients in an efficient manner, in a way that's going to, they'll see us as being effective, and they'll see our firms as adding value to them. So those are my comments.